The story of Jenny and I began with a mutual decision. We didn't want to have children. This decision seemed so natural and logical at the time, as if it was the inevitable result of our love. We both believed that without children, we would have more time and energy to pursue our dreams and our relationship. Jenny is a devout Catholic. Her faith is an integral part of her life. When we were discussing whether or not to have children, she told me frankly that she was against any form of contraception because it went against her teachings. She said that if God wants to give us a child, then we should accept that gift with joy. I respect Jenny's faith and understand her choice. Though deep down, I was a little apprehensive about the decision. After all, not having birth control meant that we could have an unexpected birth at any time. An accident that could disrupt our life plans and bring unpredictable challenges to our marriage. But I loved Jenny and was willing to make any sacrifice for her. So we agreed that we would take the risk together and do our best to maintain our world together. We believe that if our love is strong enough, there is nothing we can't overcome. After we got married, we both devoted ourselves to our respective careers, and Jenny worked for a nonprofit organization that provides help and support to the less fortunate in the city. She often leaves work late and works overtime on weekends. But every time she talks about her work, there's a glint in her eye. I know that this job gives her a great sense of satisfaction and makes her feel that her life is meaningful. On the other hand, I am the creative director of a large advertising agency. It's a challenging and stressful job, and I need to keep my creativity sensitive and fresh in order to respond to the ever-changing needs of my clients. Sometimes I have to work all night for several consecutive days just to finish a project. Although I am tired, I feel proud whenever I see my ideas being accepted by the clients and finally presented to the public. Outside of work, Jenny and I enjoy our time together as much as possible. We like to sleep in on weekend mornings and prepare breakfast together in our kitchenette, where Jenny is an excellent cook and can always whip up a great meal. Jenny is a great cook and can always whip up a great meal, while I set the table with flowers to create a romantic atmosphere. We also love to explore the city together. Every weekend, we choose a new destination or a new restaurant. We walk the streets of the city, admiring the art on the sidewalks and listening to the street performers. Sometimes we go to see a movie or visit an art exhibition. In these moments, I truly feel that our lives are so closely intertwined that we have become an integral part of each other. Though our life seemed to be a happy one, I felt a vague uneasiness in my heart. Without a child, the bond between us seemed a little less strong, and sometimes I wondered if our love was strong enough to withstand the test of time. And Jenny seemed to sense my worries. Whenever this happens, she will always hold my hand tenderly and tell me that she has infinite confidence in our future. She said that as long as we love each other, there is no difficulty that we can't overcome. At that time, I believed in Jenny's words. I thought that our love was an impregnable fortress that could withstand any storm. I thought that our life would continue to be peaceful and beautiful forever. My marriage to Jenny may seem unusual to the casual observer. Our intimate relationship has developed a unique pattern that sustains our love in an unconventional way. Jenny's strong religious beliefs make her instinctively resistant to contraception. She believes that any form of artificial intervention is against God's will. At the same time, she has a deep fear of pregnancy. She was afraid that pregnancy would change her body and affect her work and life. This ambivalence created a complexity in her feelings about intimacy. I understand Jenny's feelings and respect her choice. As her husband, it was my responsibility to meet her needs while minimizing her fears and insecurities. As a result, we have developed our own set of rules and patterns in our intimate relationship. Our intimate time is not as frequent and regular as other couples. We don't try to create a romantic atmosphere or force each other to fulfill our desires. Instead, we wait for the feeling to come naturally, for our bodies and minds to be ready. Every intimate encounter is a spiritual exchange for us. We spend a lot of time hugging and caressing, feeling each other's body heat and heartbeat. I would gently touch Jenny, communicating my love with words and gestures. She'd close her eyes and just soak in the tenderness. We seldom made it to the last step. Most of the time, we just hold each other close and feel each other's presence. I would pamper Jenny's body and mind in ways that would bring her pleasure and fulfillment. She, in turn, would respond to my love in her own way. Sometimes, our feelings become so hot that they almost engulf us. In those moments, it took every ounce of self-control I had to restrain myself. I knew that Jenny wasn't ready for the consequences. I was willing to wait until she truly accepted me. This special kind of intimacy makes our time together full of uncertainty and tension. We can never know when the next intimate time will come, nor can we be sure how it will end. But it's this uncertainty that makes every intimate moment precious. We learn to appreciate the moment and to be grateful for each other's presence. Gradually, we find a delicate balance in this special intimacy. We are no longer obsessed with intimacy itself, but see it as an expression of our love. We feel each other's hearts through physical communication and deepen our love through the clash of souls. I know that this kind of intimacy may be hard for people to understand, but for Jenny and I, it's part of our love, our commitment, and respect for each other. We believe that as long as our hearts are connected, there is no obstacle we can't overcome. At that time, I was naive enough to think that our love would continue to be so pure and beautiful. I thought we had found our own happiness. However, I didn't realize that a crisis was looming. Those problems that we had turned a blind eye to would eventually surface and test our love. As I move up the ranks of the company, my job gets busier and busier. As creative director, I oversee the progress of multiple projects, making sure that each one is completed on time and meets the client's expectations. This means that I'm often in the office late into the night, and sometimes even on the weekends. At first, Jenny was very supportive of my work. She knew what the job meant to me and understood the responsibility I had. She would always bring me a hot dinner when I was working late or give me a warm hug when I was tired. Gradually, however, I began to feel that the distance between us was widening. My prolonged absences were affecting the little time we had left to spend together. There were times when I finally had time to be alone with Jenny, only to realize that I was too tired to talk. I'd eat a quick dinner and fall asleep. At the same time, Jenny's work seemed to become more and more demanding. She started to come home late more often and sometimes even worked all night. At first, I thought it was just a temporary situation, but gradually, it seemed to have become the norm. I noticed that Jenny's behavior started to become a bit mysterious. She no longer shared her work with me as she used to do. Her cell phone was always on silent, and when I picked it up, she would immediately snatch it away nervously. A few times, I even felt that she was deliberately avoiding me. My mind began to be filled with confusion and worry. I didn't understand why there was such a sudden change between us. We used to talk about everything, but now we were like two strangers, living under the same roof, but living our own lives. I tried to talk to Jenny about my feelings, but every time she would say she was too busy with work. Gradually, our communication became less and less, and even in the few moments we did spend together, we often fell into awkward silences. I could feel a crack in our relationship. The spiritual connection we once had seemed to be disappearing little by little. I didn't know how to fix the crack, or where it would eventually lead us. I began to wonder if I was doing something wrong. Had I been so focused on my work that I had neglected our relationship? I tried to make up for it by giving Jenny more attention and love, but it seemed to have little effect. She still kept her distance from me and kept her secrets. During that time, I often tossed and turned late at night, unable to sleep. All sorts of horrible thoughts flashed through my mind. I imagined Jenny leaving me, and I imagined the end of our marriage. These thoughts were like nightmares, dragging me into endless fear and despair. But I still choose to believe in our love. I believe that no matter what the difficulties are, as long as we still love each other, we can always find a solution. I decided to give Jenny some time and space to deal with her worries. I believe that when she is ready, she will come to me, and I will always be here waiting for her. At the time, I didn't realize how harsh the truth was. I didn't know that what we were facing was much more than a work-life conflict. A real crisis was approaching, and I didn't even realize it. Just when I thought our relationship had reached its lowest point, Jenny suddenly told me the shocking news. That night, when I came home tired after a long day at work, I found Jenny sitting on the sofa, looking very serious. She told me that she thought she had genital herpes. She said that she had recently been experiencing discomfort, burning, and itching in her lower body. She looked up the symptoms on the internet and realized that her symptoms were highly consistent with genital herpes. The news hit me like a hammer and made me dizzy. I never thought that either of us could contract such a disease. We'd always been faithful to each other, and we didn't have a lot of sex. I couldn't figure out how Jenny had gotten it. I tried to convince Jenny to see a doctor, but she refused. She said she didn't want anyone to know about it, including the doctor. She was afraid of being judged and how it would affect her work and life. She would rather suffer on her own than seek help. I felt incredibly frustrated and helpless. As her husband, I should have given her support and comfort, but I didn't know how to speak. It seemed that an invisible barrier had suddenly appeared between us, preventing me from getting close to her heart. Jenny's illness was an added shock to our already precarious relationship, and our intimate life came to a complete standstill. And Jenny refused any physical contact because of her illness. Even a simple hug makes her feel uncomfortable and scared. I could understand how she felt, but at the same time, I couldn't help feeling lost and confused. The closeness of heart that we once had, the attachment that comforted each other, seemed to have become a distant dream. I began to wonder if we could ever go back to the old days. As time went by, Jenny's symptoms got worse instead of better. She started to take painkillers for a long time, and she became drowsy and lost her vitality. I saw it with my eyes and felt the pain in my heart, but I couldn't do anything about it. I tried to learn more about genital herpes, hoping to find some way to help Jenny. But the more I learned, the heavier my heart became. I realized that this is an incurable disease that can cause great physical and mental trauma to the patient. I began to blame myself for not recognizing Jenny's abnormality earlier and for not giving her enough care and attention. I wondered if I could have been there for her more, if I could have prevented this tragedy. But the reality is that I still have to face a heavy workload and still have to bear the responsibility of this family. I can't be by Jenny's side all the time. I can't share all her pain. What I can do is to hold her silently every late night and tell her that I will always be by her side. During that time, I often wondered if our marriage had come to an end. I didn't know if we could get through this difficult time and regain the happiness we once had. But I still choose to believe, choose to insist, because I know that giving up means that we have lost everything. I didn't know then that the real blow was yet to come. I didn't know that we were facing much more than just a disease. The real test was still ahead of us. Just when I thought our lives couldn't get any worse, the truth hit me like a hammer and shattered my world. That day, I came home early from work to surprise Jenny. I bought her favorite flowers, thinking that maybe we could talk about it and find some way to work things out. But the moment I opened the door to my house, my heart dropped halfway to my chest at the sight that met my eyes. I saw Jenny and another man, naked and hugging each other, doing the most intimate things on our bed. At that moment, I felt my blood curdle. I don't remember how I got out of the house. All I remember is wandering the streets in a daze, replaying the image over and over again in my head. I couldn't believe it was real. I couldn't believe that the woman I had loved for so many years would betray me so cruelly. I spent the next few days like a zombie. I took time off work and spent the whole day lying on the hotel bed, trying to numb myself with alcohol. But no matter how much I drank, the pain that tore at my heart and lungs still followed me. I began to think about our past, about what we had done. I don't understand how we got to this point. We used to love each other so much. We used to promise each other that we would spend our lives together. But now, everything has turned into a big lie. Gradually, some fragments of déjà vu began to flash in my mind. Jenny's frequent late returns, her mysterious whereabouts, her alienation and coldness towards me, all seemed to have an explanation. I felt a gut-wrenching pain, and I realized that this had probably been going on for a long time. I thought about Jenny's genital herpes and her adamant refusal to seek medical attention. A horrible thought came to my mind. Could she have contracted the disease because she was cheating on her husband? This thought made me feel sick. I knew that I had to make a decision. I couldn't go on like this. I couldn't live with the lies and the betrayal. I took a deep breath and called Jenny. I told her that I knew everything, and I asked her to move out of our house immediately. On the other end of the line, there was a long silence. Then Jenny started crying and pleading for my forgiveness. She said she was wrong. She said she was willing to change for me. But at that moment, my heart went cold. I realized that there was nothing that could be done between us. I told her coldly that our marriage was over. I told her to leave immediately and not to contact me again. I said, I will hire a lawyer to handle the subsequent matters, including the division of property and divorce procedures. I said, from now on, we are strangers. The moment I hung up the phone, I felt my heart breaking into a million pieces. I fell to the ground and let the tears flow freely. I couldn't believe that our love would end like this. I can't believe that I lost everything in our marriage. That night, I was alone in the hotel bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. My mind, constantly flashing our once little by little. Our first encounter, our wedding, we once made a vow. All of which have become a sharp knife, ruthlessly stabbed into my heart. I knew that from now on, my life would change forever. I would have to learn how to face the world alone and how to heal my broken heart. I would have to find the meaning of life again and redefine my life. After the pain of my divorce, my life was in a state of darkness. I worked mechanically every day, and after work, I shut myself up in my apartment and used alcohol to numb myself. I didn't want to see anyone, and I didn't want to go out of this small world that belonged to me. I felt like a walking corpse, devoid of life. Just when I thought I was going to sink all the way to the bottom, fate gave me a pleasant surprise. That day, I met Eliza Smith, Jenny's doctor, at a medical seminar. We chatted during a break in the meeting, and I learned that she had been closely monitoring Jenny's condition and providing her with medical help. Eliza is a very gentle and understanding woman. She listened patiently to my pain and struggles and gave me a lot of valuable advice. She encouraged me to face life with courage and not to be bound by the pain of the past. She said that everyone has the right to pursue new happiness, and I am no exception. Eliza's words were like a ray of light shining into my gray world. I began to re-examine my life and search for a new meaning. I signed up for some hobby classes and started learning painting and yoga. I found that when I shifted my focus to other things, my mood became lighter. Meanwhile, my relationship with Eliza was growing. We started going out more often, either to see a movie or to have dinner. We would talk about work, about life, about our dreams and plans. In her company, I found color in my life and a reason to smile. I realized that Eliza was not only my friend, but also an integral part of my life. Her love, like the warmth of the sun, dispelled all the darkness in my heart. Her support gives me the courage to face everything. With her by my side, I feel incredibly happy and satisfied. Our relationship, without realizing it, was becoming more and more intimate. I started to think about whether I should give a new definition to our relationship, but at the same time, I was hesitant. After all, I had just gone through a failed marriage, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to get married again. Eliza seemed to recognize my hesitation. She told me that we didn't need to rush to define our relationship. She said that we could take our time and explore our relationship one step at a time. She said that no matter where our relationship goes, she will always be there for me, giving me support and encouragement. Eliza's words gave me an overwhelming feeling of warmth and emotion. I realized how lucky I was to have met her at the most difficult time. Her presence gave me a new hope for life and the courage to love. At that time, I didn't know where our relationship was going. I didn't know if we would end up together for the rest of our lives. But I do know that no matter what the future holds, I will cherish the moment and every day with Eliza. My life is complete because of her. Just when I thought I was finally getting my life back on track, an unexpected person came into my world. That day, I was about to go out for dinner with Eliza when I received a strange phone call. On the other end of the line, there was a familiar voice. It was Jenny's mother. I haven't seen Jenny's mother in a long time. Ever since Jenny and I divorced, I've deliberately avoided any contact with her. But now, out of the blue, she called me and said she had something important to talk about. I had a bad feeling about it, but I agreed to meet her out of politeness. When I met Jenny's mother, I felt a pang of discomfort. She looked much older, but there was a strange light in her eyes. She came right out and told me that she had always had a crush on me, and now she wanted to start a new relationship with me. I was incredulous and angry. I couldn't believe that after all the pain I had been through, Jenny's mother had the nerve to come to me. I rejected her offer, telling her that I had a new life and could have nothing more to do with her. But Jenny's mother didn't stop there. She began to harass me frequently, calling me, texting me, and even showing up at my office. I was so disturbed and angry by her behavior. I didn't understand how she could be so selfish and not consider my feelings and situation. To make matters worse, Jenny found out about her mother's behavior. When she found out the truth from me, she was shocked and ashamed. As the one who betrayed me, she couldn't accept that her mother would do something so inappropriate. It was difficult for her to face. Jenny decided to question her mother. That evening, I received a call from Jenny. She told me, incoherently, that she and her mother had had a big fight and had lost control of her emotions and had accidentally pushed her mother. She hit her head hard on the sharp corner of the coffee table and lost consciousness on the spot. When I arrived at the scene, it was chaos. Jenny sat on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Her mother was lying in a pool of blood, lifeless. I immediately called the emergency services, but it was too late, and Jenny's mother succumbed to her injuries. This accident, like a bomb, shattered my life once again, which had not yet regained its calmness. I was overwhelmed with grief and shock. I never thought it would end this way. Although Jenny's mother's behavior made me uncomfortable, I never wished for anything to happen to her. At the same time, I feel sorry for Jenny. Even though she hurt me, I know that she's suffering inside too. Now, not only does she have to deal with her mother's death, but she also has to face a manslaughter charge. I can't imagine how she's going to cope with that. Over the next few days, I did everything I could to help Jenny with her affairs and to accompany her to court hearings. I knew that this was the last thing I could do for her. Our marriage was over, but I chose to do my part at this difficult time. This incident also put my relationship with Eliza to the test, and it was inevitable that Eliza would feel uneasy when she saw how committed I was to Jenny's affairs. But she didn't show any dissatisfaction. Instead, she gave me the greatest support and understanding. I was touched by her tolerance and love. After accompanying Jenny to the court hearing, my heart was heavy. Although Jenny was ultimately found guilty of manslaughter, the judge gave her a relatively lenient sentence in light of her remorse and my mother's harassment of me. Nonetheless, I know that this tragedy will change Jenny's life forever and will leave an indelible shadow in my heart. When I returned home, I felt a deep sense of guilt and powerlessness. I kept questioning myself whether I was partly responsible for this tragedy. If I had realized Jenny's mother's problem earlier, if I had refused her harassment more forcefully, could I have avoided such an ending? These questions haunted me like a nightmare. At the same time, I began to worry about how this incident would affect my relationship with Eliza. Although Eliza had been most supportive and understanding throughout the process, I knew that no one would want their partner to be involved in such a complicated and painful family dispute. I was afraid that it would become a hidden problem in our relationship. But Eliza once again made me feel her love and acceptance. She told me that I wasn't responsible for the tragedy, that everyone was responsible for their own actions, and that I had done my best to help Jenny. She said that everyone should take responsibility for their own actions, and that I had done my best to help Jenny, and she encouraged me to let go of the past and not to let it haunt me in the present or the future. Eliza's words were like a ray of light that shone into the darkest corners of my heart. I realized that I could not let this tragedy destroy my life. I had to learn to face it, accept it, and let it go before I could truly start a new life. So, I started to work hard on my mindset. I tried to look at the incident from another angle. I told myself that perhaps this tragedy is a warning to all. It reminds us that life is so fragile, and we must cherish the moment and the people around us. I also began to cherish every day with Eliza more. I realized that in this world full of variables, it is not easy to find someone who really loves you, understands you, and supports you. I have decided that I will spend the rest of my life loving her, protecting our family, and not letting anyone or anything hurt us. Gradually, with Eliza's help and my own efforts, I felt the darkness in my heart begin to lift. I found the meaning and direction of my life again. I knew that I couldn't change the past, but I could decide my future. And my future is to create our happiness together with Eliza. To strengthen our relationship and to give myself a new start, I decided to propose to Eliza. On a romantic evening, I got down on one knee and promised her my life. When she tearfully said, "I do," I knew that I could finally let go of the past and start a new chapter in our lives. Our wedding was a simple and cozy ceremony. We invited our closest family and friends, and in their presence, we exchanged rings and professed our love. At that moment, I felt like the happiest man in the world. I knew that no matter what kind of storms the future held, with Eliza by my side, I would be able to face them with courage. After marriage, we started a new life. We bought a new house and started planning for our future. We talked about starting a family and having our own children. We envisioned every day in the future and expected our love to grow stronger and stronger. Looking back, I have experienced too much pain and suffering, but it is these experiences that have shaped me today, so that I have learned to be strong, learned to cherish. I understand that life is never smooth sailing, but as long as we carry hope, perseverance, and love, there is no difficulty that we cannot cross. Dear friend, if you are reading this story, then I suspect that you may be facing something similar to what I am going through. Maybe you've been through a painful marriage. Maybe you've been traumatized by betrayal and deception. Maybe you're struggling to find a new meaning in life and love. I want you to know that I understand your pain because I was once in it too. I know how hard it is to bear the heartbreaking pain when you realize that someone you love has betrayed you, when you are faced with a broken family and an unknown future. But I also want to tell you that no matter how desperate and helpless you feel right now, please believe that one day you will find the light of life again. Just like what I experienced in the story, although the process is full of hardships and challenges, as long as you harbor hope and hold on to love, there is no difficulty that is insurmountable. I know that facing the trauma of the past and learning to let go and forgive is not an easy task. It takes time, courage, and support. But please believe that you are not alone. Just as I have Eliza, I believe that there must be someone in your life who is quietly loving you, supporting you, and waiting to walk with you into a new future. Perhaps, right now, you can't see the road ahead. But I hope that my story can give you some inspiration and encouragement. I hope that it can make you believe that no matter what you have been through, life will always give you a chance to start over. The key is that you have to be brave enough to grab it and create your own happiness in your own way. My friend, I know that everyone's story is unique and everyone's journey is different. But I believe that we all have the right to pursue love and happiness and the ability to rewrite our lives. So, if you are at a low point in your life, please don't give up hope. Please believe, just like me, you will be able to get out of the haze and find the meaning and direction of life again. Please believe that as long as you insist on love and hope, there is no difficulty that you can't overcome. I sincerely hope that my story can give you some comfort and strength. I also wish you the best of luck and hope that you will get over your pain soon and find your own happiness. Remember, no matter what happens, please never give up the pursuit of love and hope for life, because it is these that make us a better version of ourselves and give us a better life. Bless you, my friend. May your future be filled with love and light. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.